Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. The current session is about politeness strategies in language. I hope and expect by the end of this session you would have some awareness of what are different strategies that are used to create politeness while using language. Well, I hope and assume you already know what is politeness. Simply speaking, politeness is a way of encoding distance between the speaker and the listener. This leads us to the question, what does the term politeness strategies mean? Well, politeness strategies are those ways in which this politeness or this encoding of distance is carried out or is done. In fact, politeness strategies are used to formulate messages in order to save the hearer's positive face when there is a threat to the face of the person and when this threat is inevitable. So, a face, I hope also you know that it is, in pragmatics and sociolinguistics, it relates to the idea of self-image or of self-identity of a person in the social context. This is what we call face. It is public self-image. So, saving the public self-image is using politeness, and there are certain strategies that are used for that. I'm going to share some of the strategies that I would show on the screen and I would discuss with you. Well, my dear students, Robin Lakoff, 1973, has made a great contribution and has summarized 3 maxims, 3 politeness strategies, which are very simple. Number 1 is don't impose. Don't impose your opinion on the other. So let me tell you through an example. For example, when you are sitting in conference hall and you don't have a pen, the person who is sitting by your side, if you say to that person, give me a pen, in that situation, what happens? You are imposing it on the other person. The other person doesn't have any choice left. But, instead of that, if you ask the other person, for example, do you have an extra pen? Or can you please lend me a pen? This opens options, this opens possibilities, and this leads us to the second, maxim or the second rule of politeness, that is give options. So, giving options makes it easier for the other person to continue with the communication. And the third idea is make your receiver feel good, which means, make the choice of words that does not put a barrier to your communication, that rather, establishes the, kind of link between you and the other interlocutor. So, adding, for example, different politeness terms, for example, please, or, even by adding, some greeting at the beginning of when you say something, or, adding excuse me, etc. By doing all these things, what do? You make the other person feel comfortable. Well, my dear students, if you now look at the screen, I am sharing here with you a model of politeness, one of the most popular models so far. If you look at the screen, Brown and Levinson, 1978, presented this model. They, in fact, have contributed a lot towards this concept of politeness. This model of politeness, according to Brown and Levinson, says that whenever you communicate with somebody, you have options. So whenever in a situation you have to communicate, so for example, you are sitting somewhere where you, for example, you go out for lunch and with your friends, for example, and there you realize that you don't have money to pay. You don't have your wallet, for example, with you. You have forgotten to bring your cash. So there are 2 options. One is don't do the act. One possibility is that you don't say anything. But, because you are socially interacting, you are taking your lunch, you are sharing it with them. So, there would be an interaction. So, you will do the act. Now, according to Brown and Levinson, there are 2 ways of doing it. One is on record. The other is off record. What is off record? Instead of the person who is sitting next to you on the table where you are taking your lunch, instead of directly saying, can I borrow money from you, or oh, I don't have any money, will you give me some money, etc. If, for example, you just fumble your pockets and, to yourself you say, oh, I am out of cash, I forgot to go to the bank. So, what are you doing? Actually, you are not saying this to yourself. But in this situation, you are not directly addressing the other person. And when you are saying this, oh, I am out of cash, the other person would automatically understand that you don't have money, and probably the other person would, offer money or some other solution to that situation. But, this is off record. You don't put it on record. Later on, if, for example, somebody says that you asked for money, you can say, I never asked for it, because, you were just saying it to yourself. Look at the other possibility. The other possibility is of being on record. On record, you can be in two ways. On record is a kind of a direct way of saying it, where you actually say it. But it can happen in two ways. It can happen as a face-threatening way and a face-saving way. Face-saving way is a polite way. For example, where you would say, do you think you could possibly lend me some money? This is a politer way of saying it. Compare it with a face-threatening way, where you may say, hey, lend me some money. In this case, hey, lend me some money, you're not leaving any option for the other person. Well, my dear students, Brown and Levinson outlined 4 main types of politeness strategies: bold on record, negative politeness, positive politeness, and off record, that is indirect, as well as simply, not using any face-threatening strategy for that. So, there are different strategies that can be used to generate politeness or to create politeness in different social interactions, to carry on conversations and to carry on communication.